Disclaimer: this is audio horror fiction. If darkness or the creatures it holds scares you, leave now. Still listening? Good. Then let's begin. A few years ago, my town was hit hard by the economic downturn. A lot of shops and restaurants closed, and many more newly built storefronts just stayed empty, sometimes for years. None of the ones that survived opened late. I guess it wasn't worth the cost of paying their employees. So at night you could walk through the shopping district and not see a single human being. Some people thought it was depressing. All that potential, all that money, wasted. But I liked the ghost town feel of the place at night. Walking down that main road, surrounded by dark windows and empty stores, you could imagine that you were the only person left in the world. It was peaceful. The worse things got and the more businesses closed, the more I liked to go for midnight walks through town. Throughout all of the turmoil, there was one restaurant that seemed to be able to beat the odds and stay open. It was a big place, much too big for my small town, and located in an awkwardly placed building that faced away from the nearest road. It would be easy to drive or even walk past without realizing it was there, which is what a lot of people did. Most evenings it was empty, but somehow it stayed open, serving the same okay but not great Italian food, until one day it just closed without warning. No thanks for your custom sign on the front door, no farewell announcement, nothing. They locked their doors one Sunday evening and never opened them again. Now usually when a restaurant like that closes, you find that all of the tables, chairs, and fittings mysteriously disappear within a few days. I guess they sell them to pay off their debts. That didn't happen with this place. For weeks afterwards, everything remained exactly where they had left it that Sunday evening, right down to the laminated "Today's Special" sign on the notice board by the door. It was kind of odd, actually, and eventually me and a friend of mine decided to take a closer look. We went at night, of course, because that's the time when dumb ideas like that tend to occur to you. Neither of us said it out loud, but the unspoken assumption was that we were going to find a way in, an open door, a window ajar, something like that, just to see. I heard they went bankrupt, my friend said, as we walked somewhat nervously to the restaurant. Well, yeah, obviously, I said. I mean, that's usually why places close down, right? Makes you wonder why it only happened now though. They must have been struggling for years. To be honest, that was the main reason I wanted to take a look inside the restaurant in the first place. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I was secretly hoping we might find a stash of drugs hidden in the kitchen. Maybe the place was actually a front, and that's how I could operate on a loss for so long. We walked up to the restaurant feeling keyed up and tense. There was, of course, nobody around. We probably could have lobbed a cinder block through one of the windows without drawing any attention. Here we go, I muttered, more to relieve my sense of nervousness than anything else. I walked up to the glass-paneled front door and peered inside. It only struck me then just how odd it was that the staff had left the restaurant's interior so perfectly intact. Every table was carefully set and ready for customers who would never come. Knives, forks, napkins, and even fake plastic flowers in little vases of water. Someone had neatly stacked the espresso cups on top of the coffee machine, and I could even see a handwritten list of reservations hanging over the cash register. It was too dark for me to read anything on it, but I would have bet money that they were for the Monday just before the restaurant abruptly closed down. It was bizarre. They must have known in advance that they were going out of business, right? Weird, my friend muttered. I think the atmosphere was starting to get to him as well. We moved to one of the restaurant's windows. From here we could look right into the kitchen, which was separated from the dining area only by a low counter. All of the stainless steel pots and pans were hanging from hooks on the far wall. Next to them, there was a row of knives attached to one of those magnetic strips. Everything's still there, my friend muttered. I nodded tersely. By now, I think we had both abandoned the idea of finding a way in. Legality aside, the thought was just too creepy. My friend took out his phone and used a flashlight app to shine a weak light into the interior. Watching the beam of light move slowly across the tables made the hair on the backs of my arms stand on end. I was convinced he was going to reveal a set of hands resting on one of the tablecloths. Their last customer, entombed forever within the locked restaurant. "It's not reaching the kitchen," he said. "Try yours." I nodded, although I didn't really want to, and shone my phone's camera flash through the window. Mine was much stronger, enough to illuminate part of the kitchen. "Shine it towards the cash register, maybe they left money inside." I did as instructed, but a sliver of concern had begun to burrow into my mind. I had seen something in the stark light of the phone, something that a part of me was demanding I pay more attention to. "Damn," my friend said when the beam of light reached the cash register and revealed that it was turned away from us. "Go back to the kitchen." But this time I stood in place, frozen like a statue. I had just realized what it was bothering me. It was the flowers. The one time my family ate in the restaurant, we had all commented on the beautiful orchids they had put on each table. They had been real. I moved the light slowly down to the table closest to us. Sure enough, it hit upon a very real, very alive, white flower in a vase filled almost to the brim with fresh water. I opened my mouth. To say what, I have no idea, but before I could get any further, I heard my friend let out a strangled gasp. He grabbed my wrist and forced me to point the phone back at the kitchen. A figure in white clothes stood against the wall with his back to us. His dark black hair tumbled out from beneath a checkered chef's cap and over his shoulders. "Long hair," my dad had said when we came to eat there. "Unusual for a chef." In the moment before we ran, I saw his head twitch, as if he were about to turn and look at us. To this day, I still occasionally have nightmares about what we might have seen if we hadn't left when we did. There's something of a coda to this story, although it isn't too exciting. As the weeks passed, my friend and I convinced each other that the whole thing had been a result of our overactive imagination. Neither of us mentioned the one obvious way we could test that hypothesis. Go back to the restaurant and see if there were still fresh flowers on each table. I think we were both afraid of what we might find. Eventually, someone new took over the restaurant. A different friend of mine got a job there as a waitress. We got to talking about it one day and she told me an interesting story. Apparently, the reason why the place closed down so suddenly the first time is that the original owner, who was also the chef, committed suicide in the kitchen. The rest of the staff had no idea that things were so bad until they came to work the next day and found him there. They shut the place down. It was going to go bankrupt within a few days anyway, but the owner had no family for them to contact about taking the place over and removing the last of his assets. There was no way the landlord could afford to rent it out to anyone else, so it just sat there for months untouched, or at least, mostly untouched. Someone was still there to replace the flowers and top up the water in the vases. I guess he had put so much work into the place that he couldn't completely let go. I asked this friend whether she liked working at the restaurant. She got an odd look on her face and said that it was fine. I sensed a but. "Well, to be honest, it can be a bit creepy sometimes," she said. "The building, I don't like being the last one out at night." I said nothing. The town is doing better now. There aren't so many empty stores. Everyone says that we're finally moving on from those bad years. Whenever they say things like that, all I can think about is the people who didn't make it. Maybe there are more of them out there, clinging on to their dreams until the very end, hoping for one last customer. Thank you all so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to help feed the dark machine. Share with other fans of horror, and if you have a story that you would like for me to read, check the description below for details.